Thanks everybody for joining us today. If you could just raise your hand before asking a question for any of the 5 gentlemen joining us. Thank you very much.
Donnie, what was your take of the training camp this year, and how do you feel about things going forward?
Well, obviously, we'd like to be 100% healthy. Joachim Nordstrom's not going to start with us. He had injury in the middle of camp and working his way back in. So and obviously Kretsch is still working his way back. We started with both Miller and Moore, and then Bleak got hurt. So that's one of the primary concerns that went in the organization, where we're going to be health-wise. Next man up in those situations, and Bruce and the team has done a really good job. Overall, I thought our camp was really good. We executed in games. We had different lineups. We had a lot of opportunity for the other players to see what they would do. We certainly managed the minutes of the players that had gone deep in the playoffs with us, and that was by design. But I think that if you look at the practices, we asked the guys to show up and work every day and do the things that we want to do and accomplish. And I think it was designed and set up that way, and I think Bruce executed it that way.
What's Kretsch's status for the
It's to be determined still. He worked his way back out there for a segment of practice, and hopefully he'll continue to do the same. So, we'll reevaluate every day. He's a possible.
Nick?
Charlie, going into TD Garden this year is such a shell shock of a difference. All the changes in the building, outside the building, proper. How much of it is what you always envisioned or wanted, and how much of it is what's evolved in terms of need and new revelations as to what this needed to become, because it's so different from day one?
Yeah, I tell you what, it is vastly different. When I say we, a number of us up here on the dais took a tour this morning to sort of gauge where we're going to be in terms of opening day on the 12th. There's a lot of work to still be done, but it is transformational. Our aspirations when we began the project was to have the best in-arena experience in North America for our event goers, and hopefully feedback will reflect that when we achieve it. As per the journey, this has taken a long time, and I think probably my father here could tell you more about the navigation of the different political circles and perhaps red tape and bureaucracy that we had to get through in order to actually see this project to fruition. But again, walking through it, it really is going to be transformational for not only the TD Garden, but I think for both the West End community and the North End community.
James?
Charlie, just give a talk since probably really low to you.
Nothing's changed, by the way.
Yeah, nothing's familiar with you, but I mean, is there more on your slate, or?
In terms of, I think, my father could probably answer this a lot more accurately than I can, but I believe he had a vision long ago about trying to keep our family business just that, a family business, and to continue with myself and my siblings in professional management roles. This has been, a journey, and this has been a long time. I do have 2 siblings that work out of our corporate headquarters in Buffalo. I spend a day a week in Buffalo and have for many years. I work Mondays out of there, and I come in and start my work week here on Tuesdays. But as per decision-making process, most of our decisions are collaborative, unless, of course, our chairman has a thought, and and of course we do what he tells us to do.
What about in terms of, do you try to learn more now about the player side of things and the hockey side of things?
Well, I've been working in the National Hockey League in some capacity since 1994, so I guess this would be about 25 years. I don't feel like I'm a newbie when it comes to hockey operations or player personnel decisions, although I try to empower the people here to my right to make those decisions.
Sylvia?
I would be Mr. Davis speak to just the culture that's been established, so you have players that are returning, wanting to sign, getting it under the cap because of the staff that you have. Can you just talk about the culture that you've established to get these players to just want to play Boston now for
I feel, it's funny that you bring this up because we were walking through Warrior today. Well, this is after we had just toured the TD Garden and all those renovations. And I looked at Cam and I said, do you remember the days that we were in Wilmington and what it was like there at Media Day? And it is a total game changer when I think about the Boston Bruins and what it's like to come to play for us in terms of the environment, the collaboration that we have with the different subsidiaries that are operating here under Delaware North, including the Bruins. I think this is a destination. I'd like to think this is a destination for a lot of our players, and the pride of the jersey that they have in the front. That's what I think, but I think the players themselves are probably best to answer that question.
Info.
Sure, you mentioned, look, you mentioned during the research that you have done when you were talking about not having a long layoff. You're in a situation now where a lot of teams that have not as deep into the playoffs as you did struggle the following year. Is it something that for you do much in the way of research to look at what teams have done right, what things the teams haven't worked to try to put yourselves in a position to be successful?
Well, I don't think there's a blueprint out there. Everyone would be on it. Clearly, the Patriots did the right thing a couple of years ago. They lost, came back and won last year. So, you're looking right in our own backyard. Typically, the hockey teams have not gone to the final. It's been a long time. I think it's Detroit and Montreal from years ago. Other than Pittsburgh repeating, it's a tough thing to do. So, some of it will be dependent on the health of the players, like it is every other year. We've tried to manage our training camp. We started with that. We'll see where it goes from there because things change quickly. So for us, it's about how do we manage minutes of our players that have been through a lot of these runs. Secondly, we've communicated with the players that have been through these, the Bergerons and the Charles. They went through it in 2013. They came back the next year, had a great regular season, didn't achieve what they wanted to in the playoffs. I don't know if that had anything to do with going the cup the year before. It's just sometimes hard to repeat. So I think you got to be careful how much you read into that and rely on what the players are telling, what their bodies are telling them at the end of the day.
Did you look at depth as even that much more important to you because of the length of the season a year ago?
Well, I think I'll correct you in the sense that the teams in the past, we actually did a study that teams in the past 4 to 5 years have actually done very well in the regular season, which is right in the fact that Pittsburgh's the last team that's gone. They did it before when they lost and went back to the Stanley Cup Finals. So it's certainly part of what we've looked at. But it comes down to a little bit more of the granular level on a day-to-day. You know your team is going to hit a wall at some point in time based on the mileage from the previous season. You have to find those pockets of the schedule. Maybe utilize the break effectively, which didn't happen in the past, and allow them to recharge. And so we've had some open dialogue about it. But history says the team actually generally gets off. Health being a part of that, gets off to a good start. And mentally and physically, these guys are ready to go. It's just a matter of when you get into the grind, if you can stay healthy. And obviously, we proved last year with 37 players in our lineup that you need depth. To be successful, you have to have it. And you're going to hit, times of the challenging parts of the schedule, and you're going to go through the injuries, and you have to have another player come in and be able to step up. And that'll be no different for us this year.
Kevin?
Don, this goes back to July 1. You signed Lindholm, you signed Ritchie, they're on the roster now. Can you share more of your thought process, decision-making? Why go that route when you've got a handful of young kids? Because over the course of your 4 or 5 years, you've been eager to get those young kids in.
Well, I'm still eager to see our young kids develop and take jobs. It hasn't been for a lack of opportunity that I think we've provided. I think we said that when we charted a new course, that we were going to draft and develop and allow players to take advantage of opportunity. And I think that's in lockstep with Bruce's philosophy in terms of if the player is capable of playing and helping us. You can pick a player, Carson Kuhlman playing as an example and coming as a college free agent. Recognized there was an opportunity and a culture here that allowed him to come in and be comfortable and step in and play. He played in front of other players and was successful. I don't think that's ever going to go away, but we want a competitive environment. Every day you walk through the door, you want a competitive environment. And Lindholm and Richie are two examples that we felt in specific cases for Lindholm being a penalty killer and a left shot centerman that we were deficient at that area at the time. We lost Sean Corrali last year for a period of time, who's killing penalties, who's taking draws. We talked about being on the inside of the ice and playing against teams with heavy defense, and Richie has proven it's removed from 16 goals, but he's proven he can play in there. Now can he stay there and occupy that spot on the roster and contribute? That's to be determined. And if not, which is the message that we sent to Anders Bjork, was you'll get that opportunity just like you did a couple years ago and riding shotgun in a pretty good spot. Unfortunately, he got hurt, and he'll be back as a result. And all the younger players, that message, their development doesn't stop. And but the opportunity will be there if they've proven they're the best player.
Bruce, last training camp, I know you talked about wanting to get more of the Pasternak and Krejci just to see how that would develop if they were together, and did that during the regular season. And obviously, it looks like Bergeron and Marchand Pasternak is starting again this season. I'm just curious if there's any less curiosity or less interest in doing that this year, more likely to keep that line together. Where do you go with that line?
Well, it depends what's best for the team, right? How we plan. If we have the luxury to do that, to mix and match, Pasta will play at times with Krejci. It may not be on his line every night. It may be coming off a penalty. It might be we double shift David, but he'll definitely get some shifts with Krejci. How is Kuhlman doing in that role if he starts there? If not him, does a guy like Richie come in? We didn't get those looks in training camp. David got hurt early on, unfortunately, so we're going to have to do it on the fly. So am I in a hurry to do it? No. If it makes us better, we will. Then we always go back to who goes up with Bergie and Marsh. So we have to make sure we got the right people in the right spots, and it makes us better if we're going to do it, not do it just to keep players happy. I think that was brought up a little bit. I think Kretsch has said it, and we'll say it again. He believes he can drive a line no matter who's on it, and that's when we're at our best, when he does play that way. So that's what we're going to ask of him. You'll have Jake on his left, on his right is still be determined. Yeah, I mean, you're right. Last year we were hoping we can go through, JFK, et cetera, the third line center. We looked at it during the year. Obviously, there was days they were good players for us, and other days we felt that we could improve. Charlie Coyle, we know what he brings us. We've seen that, so that definitely compared to last year's filled. The right side with Kretsch, again, we had some opportunities there. This year there's still opportunity, but it's probably with players we're more familiar with. We've seen Kuhlman do it there. So, yeah, right now I'd rather not. It'd be nice if you had the same lineup every night. I think players appreciate that. I think we'll always do it a little bit because players do get stale, and it keeps them fresh and motivated if you can move some guys around, give an opportunity up in the lineup, so to speak. But a lot of times too, Mike, that's injuries. That dictates that. So we're, hopefully we stay healthy. We don't have to do that. If we do, then I'm confident we have the depth and guys will be in there and get the job done.
Yes.
I'll start with you, Don, and you. Look at your center depth now. This, in your feeling, would this be bad?
Well, I think it was a factor last year for our hockey club and the success we had. All those guys can help drive a line. As Butch referenced, Krejci, despite what everybody else might think, doesn't really worry about who's on his right side. He's going to go, and you look at Jake and the success he's had. Charlie Coyle's the same way, and Sean Corrali's the same way. They have roles, they have responsibilities that and standards that Bruce holds them to each and every night. Now, organizationally, it's certainly an area that we wanted to make sure we've been in a strong position. I have a belief that centers can move to the wing and feel pretty comfortable there. I haven't met a lot of wingers that can move and feel comfortable at center. I think organizationally, with Trent, with JFK, with Jack, with Beecher, we have depth in that position, and we're fortunate that if those players move to the wing because the opportunity presents it, we're a better team, that's what we'll do.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree. I think from a depth perspective, we're pretty solid. And I really like the fact that when we're on the road, Butch can not worry as much about matchups based on what Corrali can do. When he plays against top lines, that line is pretty solid for us. So I think it gives Butch a lot more flexibility because of the depth we have down the middle.
Joe?
Mr. Jacobs, just what do you think of the direction the organization is going?
I think that this is a very professionally run organization. I mean, take Cam, you take Don, you take Butch, and you think all of them are professionals with background and history in this game. It's not, and I think that's the respect you see with the players and the organization and why they like working with them. They know they got somebody that understands what they're doing and rewards them when they need to be rewarded and goes the opposite direction when they don't. So I'm very proud of it.
Kevin?
Jeremy, picking up on what Charlie was talking about earlier, from a historical perspective here after 40 years,
Yeah.
can you give us a greater idea about what it was like dealing with the political strata, the business strata, the finance strata in this town?
Been a lot like dealing with the press, No, it's really, it's like any other city. Quite honestly, it's not unique to here. It's got its good points and bad points, and I think we've made it a priority to develop a relationship with the political system within the city of Boston and understand them and have them understand us. And I think Charlie's done a heck of a lot better job than I did at that point. They understand him. It would have never gotten done what has been done on Causeway Street without working together, without being able to work with the powers that be in this community. And they did a good job in both cases. But, a lot of what happened there, happened because of the big dig. They propelled us. But that was 20-some years ago that we did that. And I think the whole community is going to profit by what's going on there. I went through the building today, and it's a different place. It's surprising to me what a big difference we've made in this last several years. Amy's been a great leader too. So I think I'm proud of it, and I think it's a good job's being done today.
I know in a sense that the big dig, as you referenced, there was a windfall.
Right.
But if you go back to when it was contentious whether there was ever going to be a building here
Right.
or not,
Yeah.
What did break that? What broke through?
It was the people, really. I mean, do you remember the pressure that came on when they said, Jacobs could take his money and go back to Buffalo? And Jacobs said he was going back to Buffalo? Didn't do a lot of good for me, but nor for the people here. And the people really raised a ruckus about it with the political leadership. And they turned around and said, let's work together. It had to be that. It's the only way it got done. I mean, there's a lot of ins and outs and a lot of characters that are no longer here. But it's a story into itself.
Jeremy, Charlie said that nothing has changed, but
Everything's changed.
at some point things will change in the decision-making process. How do you see that developing? What's your
What's been magnified, maybe misrepresented, there was a trust created recently that put the Bruin asset into, and the ultimate beneficiaries when I croak will be the next generation. nothing's changed insofar as position and authority and responsibility. I still will be left in the same position. So, but I think of the benefit though. It's probably the only sports team in this town right now that can predictably say it will stay pretty much as is in the direction it's going for the foreseeable and perhaps next generation. That was my goal, hopefully. My dad did the same thing for his kids, and it's the same kind of thinking that I'm looking at going forward.
Matt?
Don, how would you characterize discussions before you, Charlie, and obviously Jake is somebody else who's going to be coming to the end of their deal? Just where are you at with those three in particular at this point?
Well, the discussions with Charlie are done. Are you Charlie Coyle or Charlie McAvoy?
Charlie Wood.
Charlie Coyle's, they're all ongoing. As I've been pretty consistent, that you will not hear it from our group, where those deals are at. And that's really out of respect for every deal that you do negotiate. I understand it makes your guys' job that much harder, and you do a hell of a job of predicting where those are all supposed to go. Joe, I read yours this morning, so those influences, are not brought into our discussions. We have really private discussions that need to take place, and the other sides hopefully respect that as well. We are in discussions with the players that you've discussed, because they're part of our group right now and a very important part of our group, and hopefully if things work out and you find that common ground, they're part of our group for a long time.
You would consider like those three bridge players from kind of the 2011-13 group that's obviously still performing at a high level now, but they're bridge guys for you to the future of this franchise?
Well, again, that remains to be seen, in terms of whether or not we reach deals. And they're important players, bottom line. I like them all. They're really good players for us, and I respect what they bring to our hockey club now and hopefully in the future.
Don, from year to year, this is the lowest amount of roster turnover that you will oversee. So I'm wondering, how did it fall out? How do you think that will manifest in terms of performance?
Well, I thought we were a successful team last year, and we have a motivated group. We did inject. We do feel like our depth and organizationally has been continues to get stronger. So we feel like we have that internal competition. We have players that can come up and do the job. We've been testing that over the last few years and had some success, but also had some failures as well, and trying to learn from it. Be very target specific. Being in a collaborative effort with the coaches and everybody, our entire staff, to identify the areas of need. And I think last year, even the third line, and finding, Charlie as a result of that, was a group effort, and understanding really how we want to play and what we want to try to accomplish as a group. And we'll continue to try and do that. We're not going to do it right all the time, but it's not going to be for a lack of, from an investigative process, both internally and what the staff tries to accomplish. So the turnover this year, I was open. We weren't really in the free agent market. We lost a really good player and two really good players and important players, Marcus and Noel. And so hopefully you have players that will take that ice time and production and bring it back. That remains to be seen. But I think Lindholm and Richie do represent value for us. But I can't tell you emphatically that they're going to repeat what the other players did. I'm hoping that's the case because our team was successful.
Don, I don't know if you lost it yet, but maybe you're going to be putting anyone on long-term leave control?
Yes. The roster stuff will go in. Evan and us, the whole group has been working hard to find out what our best capture will be. Make no mistake, Miller, Moore and Bleed will not start with us. And as I referenced, Nordstrom looks like he may have a little delay as well.
Bruce said the other day that the Bruins have kind of shifted from a contender in previous years to more of a favorite. Is that your mindset this year?
I think everybody's starting right dead zero, climbing the same hill we just tried to climb last year. I think you have to prove that you're worthy. You have to get in the playoffs, and it's a hard process to get in. And if you take it for granted, I think you can kick in the ass. So for me as a group, and we respect our players a lot and the approach that they take every day. We're only worried about the next opponent and getting ready for that. And I think our coaches do a great job of looking at it that way, and I think our players respond to it.
We'll take 2 more questions.
Mr. Jacobs, with each side not deciding not to open the CBA, what does that say about the present state of labor relations within the league, and how do you see that moving forward?
That's a real plus. It's always a distraction, and when you have, I put labor unrest in the sense of uncertainty, and you've got certainty going forward, and that's important. I know the commissioner's looking at some television contracts and things of that type, and when you can talk to your TV vendors and be able to indicate that for the foreseeable future you'll be going forward and you won't have a work stoppage, that helps the value of all that goes on. It's a plus.
Mike?
Kevin started back on skates, so he's back on the ice, and he'll continue along his rehab accordingly. And we don't have a definitive return to play, but he's absolutely moving in the right direction. We're excited to see him back on the ice. He cleared, yes. So Pete will head to Providence and start down there. And again, played a role in last year. Played a lot of minutes for us up here, and we're happy that he got through. He's probably disappointed he's not going back to the National Hockey League right now, but he adds to the depth of our group, and he's an important part.
Thanks, everybody. We'll have some media scrum opportunities for the gentlemen on the dais as well following. Thanks.